Hey guys, Jonathan here, and in this video, I got to sit down with the designer of the brand new LEGO Notre Dame set. This has been so crazy to sit on all this time, but this happened in September of 2023 at the LEGO headquarters, which was just phenomenal to go to, of course, and it was a really fun interview. So here is your inside look, and you'll see quite literally, at the LEGO architecture Notre Dame. Take it away. All right, we are here for one of my favorite designer interviews that is going to happen today because we've got the Notre Dame here, and this looks absolutely gorgeous. So I'd love for you to introduce yourself to everybody and tell us a little bit about how this model came to be.
So hi everyone, my name is Billund and I'm a designer on the LEGO architecture line.
Amazing. Well, this is gorgeous, and you did the Eiffel Tower,
Yes.
which came out last year, and so I see a little Parisian theme going on here. You can't help but notice that they're to a similar scale. Was that intentional?
Indeed, no, that's just a lovely coincidence. They're both designed to the best scale that they could be at. So they're both at the sweet point as far as LEGO execution goes. But that they actually work together, it's a lovely coincidence. They're not too far apart scale-wise, and you can see that there's a bit of continuity by using the same landscaping as well. So the tree is taken directly from it's taken from the Eiffel Tower, so they can be displayed side by side. And you can see how big these monuments actually are, even though they're almost 800 years apart.
Incredible, incredible. Well, something that I love about this model, especially seeing it up close here, is how many creative uses of pieces there are to get it at this scale. But I also see a lot of interesting recolors, like the fairy wand star there in tan.
Yes.
That's incredible. Could you point out maybe some of the other recolors?
Okay, like you've noticed, so there's the level of a Notre Dame Cathedral, which has an exceptionally thin columns with then very rich flourishing stonework on top of it. And I think that the magic wand added an additional layer of detailing because it's introduced a whole new scale because it's an element that's the thinnest in LEGO. So that's why I went for it. And it's buried then in the plate overhead. So yeah, that's the creative part usage that you're alluding to. But for example, we have a hubcap wheel that serves as the upper rose window on the side. One of the elements that the whole building is most reliant on is a simple LEGO candle element. So it's a minifigure candle that's being held like that with the flame coming on top. But when stacked together, they make for both perfect columns and perfect flying buttresses on the side.
Incredible. For anybody that isn't familiar with Notre Dame, I'm a history nerd and a history buff, so this is one of the most incredible buildings that was ever built. But for those that aren't familiar, can you explain the functionality of this on the actual Notre Dame?
Oh, gladly. I mean, I'm hoping that everybody has at least tangentially heard of the Notre Dame, so that it needs
or
no
at least
introduction on itself. But the building itself is also a showcase of the pinnacle of the technological achievements of that time. Imagine they were building such spans. This is, almost 70 meters tall in real life.
Yeah.
With hand tools.
It's unbelievable.
These are stacking stones one on top of another, and that you achieve such truly a masterpiece of architecture. It's just mind-boggling. And I was trying to convey that as much as possible into the LEGO set. So I was trying to convey, because at the end, they were only stacking stones on top of one another.
Sure.
So there's a bit of a similarity.
Oh,
ours stick together where...
Yeah, they get lighter and smaller over time, but we're doing the same thing they did.
Exactly. But that's why I didn't want to cut any corners. So that's why I have a second model here with me. Because it actually shows you at a certain point in time you will be at this building step. But you don't see a half-finished LEGO model where there would be supports and then plates that you will stack upon. No, you see a construction happening. So you see columns, you see rows of columns. But you also see like the three facades, from the first story, second story, third story, they all continue. It's layered, it's layered like an onion, like the real building. So you're not building a shell like we used to back in the day with LEGO models.
Sure.
You're building the full thing. So there's the entirety of the inner structure.
in
corresponds
architecture,
as close as possible to the original. Yeah.
yeah, in architecture sets, it is relatively rare, if we're talking statistics, to have as detailed an interior as we see here. So it is cool to be able to see at this level the way it's built. I love it.
Yes, because it's you're designing a Lego set and you're at a certain price point, and then what do you want to convey for that? Do you want to go at a bigger scale, or want to have more bigger, taller, or more detailed?
Yeah.
So
the Taj Mahal comes to mind for me, the scaled down Taj Mahal that is.
Why, thank you. It's
yeah.
one of my babies as well.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, but that's the learnings from there. It was received well, right?
Yeah.
And it hopefully elevated the building experience. So ever since I've been trying to do that more and more.
Sure.
And of course, it has to get a warm reception at the day. It can't do it for its own sake. But what I'm hoping for is this. It's the moment that will only happen once. It's just like on the real one. You only enter through a small door in such a building once, and then you experience the awe that the original builders wanted to. It's created for effect. So now you'll be privy to that, and I'm hoping we'll get that on camera. So I'll just put the roof down, so you'll get a bit more lighting into it, and then please lift it up and look through the front door.
All right, here we go.
Tell us what you see.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That is absolutely incredible. It's like looking at the real thing. I've got chills. That's unbelievable. Okay, so we have to talk about how you thought to design that from the beginning, because that can't be an accident.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
Exactly like that. You have, wow. Had the time to do proper research. I visited it myself.
Sure.
And you don't forget that.
How long have you been working on this? Because, elephant in the room, of course, we had a tragedy at the Notre Dame a number of years ago, and it's still being worked on. So I assume the opportunity to get up close and visit it again hasn't been afforded to you.
No, that unfortunately we can't, but I'm hoping that we'll all be able to. After all, at the end of the day, people building it, they knew exactly well that they'll never see it completed. Guys started it, will have to pass it on many times over many generations to arrive to a finished product. So they weren't building it for themselves. They were building it for us, for the generations of people to come. It's amazing. It's so selfless in a way, right?
Being a Lego designer, do you feel a synergy with that yourself, knowing that these sets are going to live beyond you and beyond anybody in here? The Lego hobby has gone on for over 90 years at this point in various iterations, but think about kids that played with the die-cast card Lego. But now, my generation and younger generations are enjoying those toys too, and the designer of it probably isn't with us. So does that ever affect you, thinking you're building these architecture sets at a smaller scale, but much like the way that this was designed in real life, this could be passed down through families or other sets of yours? Has that ever occurred to you?
Definitely. No, it does. But I'd like to think myself that I'm just the continuation of what the people that started it. I'm just the continuation of the process. It's just bringing it to more and more people. And, not everybody in the world has the luxury to travel to Paris and experience firsthand. But it's the dissemination of knowledge. It's opening up of the whole world to the greatest thing that we've achieved. This, at the end of the day, it was like the moon landing of its time.
Yeah.
It was, and we all recognize it. The whole world recognizes one another's greatest marvels and achievements, right? So it definitely transcends just what it was supposed to serve for. It's a masterpiece, right? And the effect that you had, that you look through it, I'm really hoping that people get to experience that in a Lego model, and then they have the desire to do that in person as well.
Yeah.
And by creating awareness, that's also enabling many more people to experience that. You have to realize that this building was very, very close to destruction.
Oh, yeah.
Not just once in its history.
Many times.
Many times. It was derelict. It was left to complete disarray. It was falling apart.
Yeah.
you have a leaky roof, water comes in, a few winters freeze, stonework starts falling apart.
Right.
You know, I'm doing that through Lego medium. Victor Hugo did that through a novel, 200 years ago.
Sure.
But that was his intent.
Right.
People, look at what you have here. How are you treating it, So I'd like to see that as the continuation in the process. Yeah, because luckily, it wasn't a tragedy, man. It's still there.
Yeah.
It was,
That's true. It could have been a lot worse.
It was the greatest of lucks.
Yeah.
It's just now that we realize that, hey, hopefully what comes out of it is we'll take better care of all of them.
Absolutely. The goal, they're trying to get it done for the Olympics next summer, but of course we'll be in Paris. But I guess the latest update from the architects they're saying like, it should be ready by December of 2024. So it's after the Olympics last time I checked.
It's a mammoth task, man.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
It until the last restoration,
Yeah.
it was 700 years in the making.
Right.
So what's an additional year or two?
Exactly.
I'm just glad that we'll be able to see it. It's definitely somewhere I would love to take my kids in a couple of years to come. And I'm hoping that this, at the end of the day, helps as well.
Yeah, it inspires people to want to go see it in person. I'd love to talk about the scale again. We kind of started there, but this is a really unique scale for an architecture set as far as like the total base plate of it, if you will. Is this a direction that you feel inspired to move toward, of doing slightly larger ones? Like I'm thinking of like, to stay in Paris, the Louvre, the Taj Mahal, they're sizable sets as well, but this is almost like 2 lengths of an average architecture set.
It is.
Do you feel inspired to move toward bigger models?
I'd like to think that my starting position as designer is always what's best for the model. There might be other interests involved. I like to find what works best for a given set. Every building's unique. Every building has its own characteristic, and they can be translated into Lego forms at various scales.
Sure.
For this one, it's fairly simple. You just look at it. It's the rhythm of the facade. It's got support opening, support opening, support opening. Just like on the real one, and it's just like,
Yeah.
So.
It's incredible. I'm just in awe. As soon as we were downstairs and you pulled the cloth off of it, I just had to catch my breath for a second, because being such a huge fan of history, architecture, and of course Lego architecture, you have yet to miss, my friend. It's incredible.
But I'm glad to hear it, because that's what it was designed for at the end of the day. It was supposed to bring people out of the everyday and show them that, there's beauty in the world.
For the Lego architecture nerds, could you maybe give us a rundown of other architecture sets that you've designed?
Oh, sure. It all started with the LEGO Architecture Studio, actually, back in the day. And then I've started designing regular LEGO sets simultaneously. So some of them were released before because they had a shorter development period. Started with Big Ben in London, a very small one.
I've got that.
Imperial Hotel, Frank Lloyd Wright Imperial Hotel, then Trevi Fountain, United Nations, Marina Bay Sands. I think I'm well over 40 by now. Pretty much all of them, with 1 or 2 exemptions that I've just done the concept model of. But Skylines were a branch that I did all of them. So that's
you did every skyline.
Yes. Wow. I had to prove the concept to begin with. When started, even before the very first one was launched, I have to show that we could do at least 10.
Sure. What's your process of choosing cities' skylines to be made into sets?
It's a complicated process that involves many stakeholders,
Sure.
Sometimes I'm lucky enough to get an idea across and then it was there, and sometimes it's something that is super obvious, but we just can't find the right scale. Colosseum comes to mind.
Sure.
It came out fairly late in the architecture range, even though it's top 3 buildings of the world.
Yeah.
Same with the pyramid, you have to find the right expression to do it.
Are they technically IPs you have to work with?
No.
No, okay.
No.
So they're protected by what they are as like historical landmarks?
Yes.
Fascinating. Are there ever IPs you have to work with?
Of course. If the buildings are newer, then they are intellectual property of their respective owners and designers.
Like Las Vegas comes to mind, that probably had 1 or 2.
New, of course.
Yeah.
So that's the complexity of the skylines, which has multiple of them. There are multiple newer buildings in it.
Do do you work with like the city governments on these things, or can you kind of do them independently and you don't really need consulting or anything from cities when you're doing the
I mean,
skylines?
we had consulting on this one, but with an architecture professor at the highest of levels, so a real expert in his field, just to make sure that everything's done respectfully and properly, and that we stay true to what we want to achieve. You know, so
Wow, that's incredible.
yeah, no corners cut, no corners cut on this one. It's a fully fledged model. And you asked me before to explain some of the buildings.
Oh yes, yeah.
Structures, and I'll just show you like just one bit, and that's the part if I take off. But that's not a Lego sub-build, even though, you know, in a Lego way you might have built that and place it on at the very end. You're actually building that in 4 or 5 different stages. It's because once you build the first floor, when you do the ground floor and then continue on to the first floor, before building the second floor, you had to support the walls so that they cave backwards. So, you know, you build the lower, that's the small flying buttress that supports that wall.
Sure.
From then on, you know, they've continued on the upper wall, and then that was supported by the larger flying buttress before the weight of the roof would come on top, right?
Incredible.
Just like in the real one, right?
Yeah.
So that's, and when you're looking through that, like the flying buttress also takes away the water from the roof of the building.
Incredible.
And it flows through it, just like here, through the middle of the element, and then it comes sprouting out of the gargoyle so that it carries the water away from the building, so that it doesn't eat up the foundations, you know, so that the runoff doesn't affect the structure. So you have all of that in the Lego model. And then, you know, the last bit, the tabernacles, the little houses on top, they came on as an additional detail later on in the 1850s, you know, and so that you're placing that at the very last stages of the building, when they have done the final remodeling, when they added the spire, when they added the little chapels to the side. So you're not building a Lego model, you're building the Notre Dame Cathedral.
Sure, that's so cool. Well, we're rounding the bases for home here. I do have one quick question for you.
Of course.
Of course, historically, you know, what the Notre Dame was built for is it was a church. And that's typically not something we see Lego generally do, like getting into religious buildings or churches or places of worship. Was that ever a consideration or anything when this set came up? Or is it viewed more as like a historical monument, so it's technically not a church? Just curious if that ever came up, since it's something Lego really hasn't done since, well, in decades.
I mean, it is what it is. It's a cathedral, but first and foremost, it's an architectural marvel that belongs to the whole world. You know, that's undisputed. And the more people have exposure and access to it, the better. I mean, I have no problems, and I'm hoping to bring my kids to them, and that they'll see the magnificence of it. So it's first and foremost, you know, and to be honest, you think Paris first.
Yeah,
I
absolutely agree.
You don't think about its what it serves for, but that's besides the point. It's definitely worth celebrating, and I'm really proud that we've been able to pull it off in such a good way in the Lego form.
I'm honestly blown away. It is so cool, and I just can't wait to get this and build it. It looks so fun to get all of these details put together. How long would you estimate it takes somebody to build it, if you had to guess?
What I'm hoping for is take your sweet time. It's like when you come across a building fact, you know, it's a sentence or two that we're putting into, but hopes it spurs the curiosity, and you're a search away to really read upon it, and then you'll come to appreciate of all the thought that had to come into building of the original, and to have it upkept for now. It's closing on 900 years. 900, man, you know how long is that?
It's crazy. That's like getting into Yoda territory.
And still standing and going strong,
despite
all the tribulations that it went through. You know what it went through in its history. You know, you can't boil that down to one label or one sentence.
Sure.
And that's what I'm hoping that people won't. It represents a significant chunk of human history, if you think of it. You know,
I mean, it was the heart of Paris before Paris was even Paris. Honestly,
exactly.
It's incredible.
You know, it was a small village without a paved street. You know, you can
yeah.
If you're transported back in time when this has started, you know, And the world has changed many times over
Yeah.
since that time. And hopefully it will change many times over for the better in the future. And this will be still around for the future generations, because they've built it for us. They built it for the effect that you had when you look at the model and when you visited it. That's what it's made for.
It's incredible.
It's just it's celebrating what we can do as humans, right?
It's
amazing.
It's a marvel in real life, and it's a marvel in Lego form. So congratulations on another excellent model achieved, and I'm sure all of us are excited to build it, none more than me, and thank you so much for your time today.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.